In a world where water is essential yet increasingly scarce, World Water Day serves as an important reminder of its preciousness. As climate change accelerates and populations burgeon, the imperative to join forces across borders in safeguarding this vital resource becomes ever more urgent. The repercussions of water scarcity and pollution reverberate globally, heightening tensions between communities and nations. This year's World Water Day, with the theme Water for Peace, underscores the transformative power of collaboration. By prioritizing cooperation, countries seek cultivate harmony, bolster prosperity, and also fortify resilience in the face of common challenges. And for more on the significance of the World Water Day, let's speak with the Executive Director, Corporate Accountability and Public Participation Africa, Akinbode Olufemi, who joins me virtually. Glad to have you join us on the news at 1. Right. The World Health Organization says about 2 billion people globally lack access to safely managed drinking water. That is a disturbing figure. We could see that this figure reflects some of the challenges in providing access to water, access to sanitation, as well as the disparities between developing and developed countries. What's your take on these statistics?
Well, the most disturbing about the statistics is that a greater chunk of that figure comes from developing countries where African countries are ranked. And when you look at African countries, that's where Nigeria is also ranked. And you look at the disturbing figure in terms of access to safe, clean water in Nigeria, for which about 71 million Nigerians do not have access. You look like cities in Lagos, where about half of the entire population of 21 million people do not have access to clean water. And it's very instructive, again, to remind us that water is the foundation of life and that it connects every being, and that any disruption into that cycle portends a very great danger either to the climate or to the human person, and most importantly to public health. And that's why, globally today is marked again to bring international solidarity, international attention, policymakers' attention to why we need to place priority to water. How water is managed, prevent pollution, the connection between water management and climate change, and of course agriculture, public health, and a whole lot of our human beings.
Talking about accessibility to clean water and sanitation, the theme for this year is Water for Peace. What's your say as regards those currently facing displacement due to conflicts in relation to this year's theme?
Yeah, it's very good that you mentioned the fact that water itself is creating conflicts. And those conflicts are of various dimensions. In Nigeria, the biggest conflict we seem to be having today is the migration of herdsmen from the northern part of Nigeria to the southern parts of Nigeria. And the drying up of the Gongola Basin, the drying up of Lake Chad, which are, forcing this migration from people who are basically herdsmen in a particular geographical location, migrating to where there will be water and where there will be pasture for their herds. And what are we having in that are the major conflicts we have between herdsmen and farmers and the rest of them. There are other parts of the world that the control of waterways, canals, becoming a major source of war. But the core message today is that rather than being for tension, conflicts, and the rest of them, that we can all come together, manage water in an equitable way, manage water in a way that respects humanity and nature, and for that we can use water as a tool to foster peace. That is the message today, and that we should also ensure that in terms of provision of water, in terms of access to water, people, regardless of their economic status, regardless of their geographical location, should have access to safe, clean water.
So talking about management of water, like you mentioned, this figure also says about 3.6 million people lack access to safely managed services. What are your thoughts on, the rising cost of packaged water and what the government can do to ensure accessibility of every Nigerian to this?
So first is to say that packaged water itself is an aberration. If public utilities are working, when I was in secondary school, my age, what we do is to walk up to the tap with our hands, clean your hands, and then you drink water. Later, some generation will go to school with their water bottles and fill it up by the tap, and then suddenly the taps dried up, all right?
Yes.
And people now romanticizes the era of the Jacon days and the rest of them where there are water in places like Lagos. We need to bring that era back. We need to stop the preponderance of boreholes and wells in the city like Lagos because of the topology of this particular state, and I think several other states in Nigeria. And to do that is to be able to revamp the public water infrastructure. And what has happened over the years is that the government has been taking wrong steps towards that, believing only that the only way to go is to do privatization, which has failed in several countries, and people are remunicipalizing their water utilities. So the government should go back to the drawing board and look at what we call the public model. Look at where public waters are thriving, countries that are doing it so well, learn from them, bring their technical expertise, start from somewhere. Lagos, for instance, has 48 water stations. Nobody's saying you should do the 48 at the same time. Start from somewhere, and communities will begin to incrementally have, access to water. That's what we'll be recommending to particularly Lagos State government, and of course to the federal government and several other states. Enugu State recently actually even gave their workers targets. Each work should get 50 million. It's practically not possible. Water is human right. Water is the foundation of life. I said that earlier. And every government in Nigeria, in Africa, should treat water as such.
Executive Director, Corporate Accountability and Public Participation, Africa, Akinbode Olufemi, thanks for sharing your thoughts at the News at 1.
Thank you so much.